Well, I don't know if you can remember back to your school days, particularly secondary school, and wondering what your favourite subject was. Well then.
Metalwork.
Oh, that was one of my least favourite subjects, sorry to say. I didn't really understand it. One day I was making a poker in the forge. When I finished, it wasn't quite as long as it started out. Ted, it was usable when we were first married. We did use it when we had a coal fire to poke the old coals. Anybody else want to have it? Yes. History, huh? Oh, was it? Yeah. It wasn't mine. Didn't like the history teacher. Couldn't remember the dates. Oh yes, I'll second that one, Ursula.
Can Claire hear all right if we're talking from here?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the best we can do today.
Well, one of the other subjects that really wasn't my bag was science. It was okay with biology because it seemed to make sense, you know, learning about the human body and planets and things. Don't know why people needed to study physics, let alone chemistry. Although I have got two scientists in the family, and I'm not one of them. So it might seem a bit strange that I'm going to start this morning by talking about something to do with physics. So I want to introduce you to the potential of, to the phenomenon of potential energy. I can't come up with any scientific formulas or anything. And so I thought I might just use some visuals to explain a bit about it. So if you could imagine, for example, a child at the top of a slide, or somebody holding a yo-yo, or water behind a dam wall, or a ripe apple on a tree before it falls. All these things have got something in common to make that potential be released. And that thing in common, of course, is gravity. So if the apple is ready to fall, it will, as Isaac Newton discovered. If a child lets go of the top of the slide and moves slightly, they'll go down it. Likewise, if there's a break in the dam wall, the water will be released. There might be some pictures there, but if not, it doesn't matter. We can use our imagination. So this concept of potential is even more fascinating when you think about the human embryo. When it's applied to human life. And we'll go on to the next one, I think, after that. That's the one, the human embryo. Yeah. As the embryo grows in the womb, we have absolutely no idea what will happen with that child, what their skills and ability will be, how they'll be manifested. Will their achievements become apparent really early on, or will they be late developers? Will all be revealed in one burst of genius, or will it be a slow reveal, emerging at different stages in life? If we're going to have a look at the next slide, we've got the words of Psalm 139. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. In other words, God knew all about us before we were born. He knew of the potential that was locked up in the embryo that was you and me. So this morning, what I want to do is to share a personal journey of potential and revelation that has emerged over the last 2 years. something that for me has been a long and winding road. Now, those of you who are gardeners will understand this, that seed has a viable life. Parsnip seed, for example, as I know Mike will know, will only last for one season. Yet some seeds of the pea family, they can lay dormant for up to 80 years. 80 years and still germinate when planted and given the right conditions for growth, bringing new life to something which is apparently lifeless. 71 years after my birth, God has brought to germination a seed of creativity in me that I had no idea that existed. In the words of a well-known hymn, God moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. As I reflect on these words, it's with hindsight that I'm able to apply them to my own creative journey. We're going to go back to the 1990s now. And my wife, Pam, she was studying for her Part 1 City and Guilds creative embroidery course. And she had to learn a lot about textiles and sewing and all sorts of things. And so as part of that, we visited many, several textile exhibitions. And whilst I appreciated the skills that had gone on for people to create such beautiful works of art, those things were not part of my skill set. I appreciated what I saw, including, of course, the creative work that Pam produced and continues to produce. We even saw some live demonstrations of artists at work. And one of the things I was drawn to was the process of weaving, which on the face of it seemed quite straightforward, just in and out, up and down. Later, in September, when Coventry had one of these Heritage Open Days, we visited the weaver's house on Upper Spond Street, and they were demonstrating their stick and peg loom weaving. I bought a couple of these peg looms and had a go, wove a few simple things, a wall hanging, a shoulder bag from a granddaughter and a rug. A few years later, we went up to Derbyshire and spent a weekend there and went to the Buxton wool gathering. I think there's a slide coming up. Oh, it's there, yes. That way to Buxton. We went to the Buxton wool gathering, and one of the things there that fascinated me was a spinning demonstration. In other words, the process of creating yarn from fibre. I thought I'd quite like to learn how to spin. So in the summer of 2019, I contacted the secretary of the local Spinners, Weavers and Dyers Guild and arranged to have a taster session, which was quite useful. But unfortunately, nobody there taught spinning. So what do? You go to the internet and you Google. So I Googled, and I found that there was a teacher in a little village in Leicestershire near Market Harbour, a village called Stoke Albany. And so October that year saw me at my first lesson at Pam Austin's spinning school, learning the art of long draw spinning. As we chatted, I discovered that Pam is a Christian, now following the rule of Benedict, and she's been running during lockdown and actually is still running it, a weekly Zoom Christian meditation session. So it was interesting listening to her share some of aspects of following that rule of Benedict and comparing that to the faith practices that have been part of my life for the last 30 years or more. Anyway, mastered the art of spinning, and now the proud owner of a spinning wheel, Pam asked, what next? This is Pam, the spinning teacher, by the way, not Pam, my wife. It gets a bit confusing. So I thought, well, weaving seems to be the natural step. So I had a weaving lesson with her, borrowed a table loom and produced a piece which is now cushion cover. Moving on a bit, in February 2020, the 1st of February, in fact, Pam and I had gone to the Grangewood Garden Centre, which is just on the outskirts of Tamworth. And you know, lots of garden centres now have these cabins around the edge, don't they, with people having, might be a flower arranging thing or a cake making or whatever. And Pam said, oh, look. And there was a cabin there, and across the top it said, illuminating weaves. So we went in, and it was a newly established business set up by a lady called Ruth. And she specialised in Japanese sayori weaving. I had a brief taster session, and it seemed a lot more creative a way of weaving than using the loom that I borrowed from the spinning teacher. And I have to say I was hooked. And I booked a series of lessons. And that began in the summer once lockdown had finished. Anyway, as Ruth and I talked, it emerged too that she's a Christian, part of the Methodist movement, which of course resonated with me because I have a brother who's a Methodist minister, and it was also my church upbringing. And Ruth too is a spinner. Like my spinning teacher, Ruth was also a widow. And as a recent lesson, Ruth spoke to me about a book she'd written, which maps her journey through grief following the death of her husband at quite a young age in 2011. And in this little booklet, she makes connections with biblical scripture and illustrates it with examples of her embroidery stitching. For me, as we taught, it was actually quite a moving session because it brought back memories of my sister-in-law, Helen, who was also a stitcher and a knitter, who died in 2019. And talking to Ruth, it was interesting because it sort of exposed some lingering emotions of grief, which I didn't realise was still there. Anyway, I was amazed really in the way in which God has caused this vital seed of creativity in me to germinate. He knows what we need and when we need it. And these skills that I'm developing have been a real blessing during lockdown. Anyway, in the middle of lockdown, I decided to take the plunge and buy my own loom. Not quite as straightforward as you think, because they're made in Japan. The factory in Japan closed down for quite a while. There's only 4 outlets in the UK where you can get these looms from. One's in Wales, North Wales, one's in Stroud, one's in Norfolk, and one's in London. Anyway, eventually I managed to get hold of one. It arrived and was duly assembled. And so we now have a loom and a spinning wheel in the house. Sorry?
How big are they?
The loom, it's a floor loom, so it's about that high and it's about that wide. Sorry? No, it's all right. And the spinning wheel is if you just imagine a traditional spinning wheel as in the fairy tales, it's that sort. But there's no spike on it to prick the finger. Anyway, just to sort of come to a conclusion, none of us know what our allotted time is on this planet. So I would encourage you to seize the day. Pursue those sparks of interest and inspiration. Don't let the grass grow under your feet. But if there's one thing you go away with this morning, let it be about you, not about me. My story simply serves as an illustration. It shows that God is in control. He knows what is best for us, and he sees the potential in us. It's his timing that matters. And so it's important that we remember the source of our well-being. And I believe that God provides us with what we need and when we need it. As I said earlier, we all develop at different stages. So don't ever write yourself off or allow others to write you off. These words from Jeremiah 29 put this all into perspective. For I know the plans I have for you, announces the Lord. I want you to enjoy success. I do not plan to harm you. I will give you hope for the years to come.